The infinite potential within each individual resides in boundless reservoir of potential, an enduring flame of resilience, and a wellspring of fortitude that no external force can diminish. You possess the inherent capacity to elevate your well-being, to fortify your spirit, and to cultivate an unshakable sense of self. This truth, though profound, often eludes recognition, leaving many to grapple with a persistent question: why do countless individuals fail to apprehend this intrinsic power? Why do they find themselves adrift, besieged by insecurity, perpetually pursuing an elusive and transient state of contentment? The answer lies in a fundamental misstep. They entrust the key to their happiness to others. They persuade themselves that validation, support, or affection from external sources constitutes the prerequisite for wholeness. Yet this approach is inherently flawed, for it positions happiness as a moving target, subject to the caprices of others, perpetually shifting, and ultimately beyond one's dominion. You cannot govern the thoughts, feelings, or actions of those around you, nor should you feel compelled to undertake such an impossible endeavor. What truly matters is the acknowledgement of your own worth. You are endowed with intelligence, talent, and the capacity for joy, qualities that define you innately. These attributes are neither bestowed upon you by others nor subject to their revocation. There is no imperative to seek external permission to embrace your authentic self. Happiness is not a gift conferred by another, but a deliberate choice you make for yourself. From my own contemplations, I have observed how frequently we, as a society, succumb to this trap of dependency, gazing outward when the answers reside within. This realization is both liberating and formidable, for it places the onus squarely upon us to forge our own path to fulfillment. The pursuit of happiness through external means is a Sisyphean task. Consider the individual who hinges their contentment upon the approval of a colleague, the affection of a partner, or the stability of a career. When these elements falter, as they inevitably do, their sense of self crumbles. Yet the alternative is not despair but empowerment. Happiness, as a state of being, emerges from within, independent of the fluctuating tides of circumstance. It is a choice rooted in self-awareness, a recognition that no external entity holds dominion over your inner peace unless you concede it. This perspective, while simple in theory, demands a shift in paradigm, a reorientation from the external to the internal, from dependence to autonomy. How, then, does one liberate oneself from this reliance on others and uncover an enduring sense of inner peace? The philosophy of Stoicism offers a robust framework, 7 timeless principles to guide you toward a life of strength, autonomy, and completeness, irrespective of external companionship or circumstances. These tenets, distilled from the wisdom of thinkers such as Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca, provide a roadmap for navigating the complexities of existence with grace and resilience. In the discourse that follows, we shall explore these principles in depth, beginning with the foundational assertion that happiness originates from within, not from the vicissitudes of the external world. Prepare to embark on a journey of self-discovery, where the insights of the ancients illuminate a path to modern resilience, and where the potential within you is brought to light. Principle 1. Happiness derives from within, not from external circumstances. Have you ever pondered the paradox of human satisfaction? Consider those who, despite possessing wealth, renown, and every material comfort, remain plagued by an unshakable sense of emptiness. Contrast them with individuals who, though endowed with little in the way of worldly goods, radiate a profound and abiding joy. This disparity captivated the Stoic philosophers of antiquity, who discerned a truth as relevant today as it was millennia ago. Happiness is not a product of external conditions, but a reflection of our internal disposition. The Roman Stoic Epictetus articulated this succinctly when he declared, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." In essence, it is not the events that befall us that dictate our emotional state, but the manner in which we interpret and respond to them. This principle strikes at the core of human experience. If you permit your emotions to be swayed by forces beyond your control, be it the opinions of others, the fluctuations of fortune, or the unpredictability of relationships, you relinquish the prospect of genuine tranquility. Imagine a scenario. You are walking through a verdant park, savoring the crisp air and the serenity of nature, when an irate stranger abruptly berates you without provocation. The words sting, and your initial impulse may be to retaliate, to allow anger to consume you and engage in a heated exchange. In doing so, however, you have effectively surrendered your emotional sovereignty to an unknown entity. Your peace, once a bastion within, becomes a casualty of their discontent. Yet an alternative exists. Should you pause, draw a measured breath, and acknowledge that their outburst carries no inherent significance unless you assign it such, you retain mastery over your inner state. The stranger may persist in their ire, but their words no longer hold sway over you. In this moment, you triumph, not over them, but over the potential chaos within yourself. This act of reframing is not mere Stoic detachment. It is an exercise in psychological sovereignty. The mind, when untrained, reacts instinctively to external stimuli, amplifying their impact beyond their due. Yet through conscious effort, one can cultivate a perspective that filters such disturbances, rendering them impotent. Happiness in its truest form does not hinge upon external validation, harmonious relationships, or ideal conditions. It does not reside in the opulence of your possessions, the accolades you garner, or the figures in your financial ledger. While these may offer ephemeral bursts of pleasure, to anchor your fulfillment in them is to live in perpetual apprehension of their loss. Authentic happiness is an internal condition, a deliberate act of will that no external force can usurp. To illustrate this, consider the tale of two colleagues, John and Michael, who shared a decade of service at the same firm. John had risen through the ranks with diligence, priding himself on his reliability, while Michael, equally competent, approached his role with a quiet confidence. One fateful day, they received identical news. The company was restructuring, and their positions were terminated. The circumstances were indistinguishable, yet their responses diverged starkly. John succumbed to despair. He sat motionless in his habitual coffee shop, hands trembling as he clutched the termination notice, his mind racing with dread. What shall I do now? What if no other opportunity arises? I am a failure. Fear engulfed him, robbing him of sleep and plunging him into self-recrimination for his perceived lack of foresight. His identity, so entwined with his role, unraveled in the wake of its loss. Michael, though initially stunned, swiftly regained his equilibrium. He reasoned, "I cannot alter the fact of my dismissal, but I can determine my response." Rather than wallowing, he viewed the setback as a catalyst for reinvention. He pursued new skills, enrolling in courses to broaden his expertise, reconnected with professional contacts, and even contemplated launching an entrepreneurial venture. Within 6 months, Michael had established his own enterprise, a modest but thriving concern, while John remained ensnared in a mire of anxiety, unable to extricate himself from the shadow of his former position. The event was identical. The outcome was shaped by their respective mindsets. Life is replete with inevitable adversities, betrayal, rejection, the loss of cherished possessions or relationships. Should you allow these occurrences to define your value or dictate your contentment, you render yourself perpetually vulnerable. The Stoics did not advocate the suppression of emotion. Rather, they emphasized the primacy of perception and reaction in shaping our existence. This does not demand an absence of feeling. Sadness and disappointment are natural, but an understanding that your thoughts and emotions remain under your sole jurisdiction. No external entity can compel you to surrender your peace unless you acquiesce. Reflect upon a personal experience, perhaps a moment when a careless remark or a dismissive gesture from another pierced your composure, unleashing a torrent of anger, pain, or disillusionment. In my own life, I recall an instance where a colleague's offhand critique of a project I had labored over left me questioning my competence. The words, though casually uttered, stirred a tempest of self-doubt, and for hours I wrestled with a sense of inadequacy. Yet upon reflection, I posed a critical question. Was the source of my distress their words or the weight I granted them? We possess the authority to choose our response, to succumb to indignation, to nurse our wounds, or to stand resolute amidst the storm. To control one's mind is not to deny emotion, but to assert dominion over its impact. Master this, and no individual, no circumstance can wrest your happiness from you. This principle serves as the bedrock of Stoic philosophy. It challenges us to reclaim agency over our inner world, to recognize that external events are mere shadows unless we imbue them with power. The implications are profound. Happiness is not a reward bestowed by the world, but a state cultivated within. As we proceed, the subsequent principle will delve into the discipline of governing our thoughts and emotions, fortifying our resilience against the caprices of the external realm. Principle 2. Mastery over thoughts and emotions. The human mind is a tumultuous domain, particularly in moments of repose. Imagine yourself retiring to bed after an arduous day, your body weary and the promise of rest beckoning. Yet as you settle beneath the covers, your thoughts erupt into a relentless cascade. Fragments of conversations, past missteps, and anxieties about the future converge, pulling you into a vortex of unrest. Your heart quickens, sleep eludes you, and what should be a sanctuary becomes a battleground. Such is the nature of our cognitive landscape. Teeming with thousands of thoughts daily, it often feels an insurmountable task to impose order upon them. At times they surge forth like a tempest, sweeping away the tranquility we strive to preserve. Yet amidst this chaos lies a pivotal truth. While you cannot dictate the actions or sentiments of others, you wield absolute authority over your responses. Mastering one's thoughts constitutes the cornerstone of self-governance, a precept extolled by Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor. He asserted, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." This maxim underscores a fundamental reality. Your well-being is not contingent upon external accolades, relationships, or circumstances, but upon the tenor of your internal dialogue. Should your mind be consumed by worry, doubt, or regret, you will find yourself unsettled even amidst prosperity. Conversely, by transforming negative ruminations into constructive reflections, you erect a bulwark against life's vicissitudes. Consider a scenario from professional life. You have prepared meticulously for a presentation, delivering it with conviction before an attentive audience. As you conclude, a voice from the crowd interjects with a derisive tone. This offered nothing novel. I fail to see its purpose. The room falls silent, all eyes turning to gauge your reaction. Within you, a tumult of emotions stirs. Anger at the slight, embarrassment at the public critique, perhaps a flicker of self-doubt. The instinct to retort sharply or retreat in shame beckons. Yet in that moment of pause, a Stoic insight emerges. Their judgment does not define your worth. It reflects their perspective, not your reality. You inhale deeply, offer a measured smile, and respond, "I appreciate your view. Should you have specific suggestions, I would welcome them." The critic gains no foothold, and you emerge unscathed, your composure intact. This exercise in restraint is neither effortless nor instinctive. Emotions, when potent, can eclipse our capacity for choice, drawing us into reactive patterns. Yet the Stoics understood that while we cannot avert unpleasant encounters, be they harsh words, unforeseen setbacks, or the caprices of fate, we can dictate our perception and handling of them. Envision your mind as a fortified citadel. Beyond its walls lie assailants, disparaging remarks, scornful glances, unsolicited opinions, seeking entry. You stand as its sentinel, determining what breaches the threshold. Their influence ceases where your resolve begins. How, then, does one cultivate this discipline? The process commences with awareness. When negativity threatens to overwhelm, pause and interrogate its merit. Does this warrant the forfeiture of my peace? Is an immediate reaction necessary? Next, direct your focus to what lies within your purview. You cannot alter the dispositions of others, but you can reshape your thoughts about them. The past is immutable, yet its lessons are yours to glean. Hardships are inevitable, but your approach to them is yours to define. Finally, embrace serenity as a deliberate act. To refrain from reaction is itself a response. When provoked, meet the challenge with equanimity, as though it were a fleeting gust. When corrosive thoughts arise, observe them dispassionately, denying them dominion. This mastery is not an abstraction, but a lived practice. In my own journey, I recall a period of professional uncertainty when a superior's curt dismissal of my efforts left me reeling. The sting of rejection fueled a cascade of self-criticism, threatening to unravel my confidence. Yet, drawing upon Stoic wisdom, I arrested the spiral. I asked, does this critique negate my capabilities, or does it reveal more about their frame of mind? The shift in perspective restored my footing, transforming a moment of vulnerability into one of growth. You too possess this strength. To govern your thoughts is to claim your happiness, a realization that no external force can confer or confiscate. Principle 3. Acceptance of impermanence and detachment from clinging. For many, happiness appears as a fragile thread, intricately woven into the fabric of their relationships and possessions. They cherish a loved one, deeming them the epicenter of their existence. They prize a vocation, viewing it as the bedrock of their stability. They amass material wealth, believing it secures their contentment. Yet when these anchors dissolve, a partner departs, a career falters, possessions vanish, their world fractures. Why does such loss precipitate devastation? Because they have clung too fiercely to entities inherently transient. Epictetus counseled, "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." This does not advocate isolation, but underscores a vital distinction. Relationships should inspire, not enslave. To grasp that nothing endures eternally is to cherish the present while preparing to release it when the time arrives. Impermanence is the natural order of the cosmos. Day yields to night, seasons transition, and human connections evolve. Marcus Aurelius, reflecting on this flux, recognized that resistance to change breeds suffering, while acceptance fosters peace. To cling is to court insecurity, to imprison oneself within the fear of loss. When happiness is tethered to another's presence, you dread their departure before it occurs, a preemptive anguish that erodes joy. Seneca offered a preparatory exercise. Envision all that you hold dear vanishing tomorrow. This is not pessimism, but a mental fortification, enabling you to love without dependency, to connect without chains. Reflect upon a moment of personal loss, perhaps a friendship that faded or a cherished role that slipped away. In my own life, I once mourned the dissolution of a close bond, feeling as though a part of myself had been excised. Yet introspection revealed a deeper truth. My pain stemmed not from their absence, but from the authority I had ceded to them over my well-being. To release attachment is not to diminish affection, but to reclaim autonomy. A true companion requires no coercion to remain. A worthy connection thrives on mutual freedom. Should they depart, let them go, not from indifference, but from respect for life's ebb and flow. Happiness, thus unmoored from others, becomes an unshakable constant within you. Principle 4. Self-control as the pathway to freedom and happiness. Few recognize a subtle yet pervasive truth. Each time you permit others to sway your emotions, you inadvertently cede power over your happiness. Picture a day of buoyant spirits, abruptly punctured by a scornful glance, a thoughtless remark, or an unanswered message. In an instant, your equanimity dissipates, supplanted by anxiety or resentment. This is the peril Stoicism seeks to avert. Marcus Aurelius affirmed, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This is not a mere aphorism, but a guiding ethos for enduring life's unpredictability with poise. External circumstances, failure, loss, criticism are inescapable. Yet to predicate your well-being upon them is to consign yourself to perpetual servitude. True freedom arises not from manipulating the world, but from mastering your inner domain. Consider Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who endured the horrors of Auschwitz. Stripped of family, liberty, and identity, he discovered an inviolable truth. Even in extremis, he retained control over his thoughts and responses. In man's search for meaning, he wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." This resilience, forged in the crucible of suffering, exemplifies Stoic self-control. In contemporary life, such mastery shields us from lesser but persistent storms. When a stranger's words wound or a colleague's indifference stings, ask, "Do I permit this to govern me?" In my experience, I once allowed a peer's dismissive tone to unravel my confidence, only to realize later that my reaction, not their words, fueled my distress. Self-control restores agency, fostering a peace impervious to external tumult. It also invites solitude, not as isolation, but as a crucible for growth, preparing us for the next principle. Principle 5. Embracing solitude and self-development. Solitude evokes a primal unease in many, a fear of confronting the self unadorned. We fill our days with chatter, connections, and distractions to evade this silence. Yet Stoicism reframes solitude as a gift, an arena for self-discovery and fortification. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, engaged in solitary reflection not for acclaim, but to refine his soul. He required no external presence to feel whole, for completeness resided within. Ask yourself, if all companionship vanished, would your happiness endure? For the Stoic, this is not a threat, but an affirmation of inner sufficiency. Imagine a dawn scene. Mist cloaks the rooftops, the sky a tender blue, and silence reigns. You sit with a steaming cup, a book open before you, its pages a portal to wisdom. No demands, no judgments, only you, present with yourself. This is not loneliness, but liberation, a space to nurture your essence without reliance on others. To depend on external validation is to remain incomplete. To revel in solitude is to affirm your wholeness. Begin modestly. Set aside an hour, free of devices, to reflect or create. The initial discomfort yields to a revelation. You are enough, and happiness requires no one else. Principle 6. Practicing gratitude over expectation. Humanity often seeks happiness through expectation, awaiting others' gestures to affirm our worth, a message, a compliment, a token of care. Yet when these fail to materialize, disappointment festers. Seneca observed, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." To expect is to dwell in scarcity. To practice gratitude is to inhabit abundance. Consider Robert, a diligent man who nurtured friendships with earnest effort, only to find reciprocity lacking. Rather than despair, he shifted focus, grateful for the quiet moments his solitude afforded. Epictetus reinforced this. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Gratitude reclaims emotional sovereignty. A simple meal, a sunlit morning, a compelling text. These suffice when appreciated. In my own practice, I once awaited recognition that never came, only to find peace in valuing what I already held. Happiness lies not in others' hands, but in our recognition of the present's richness. Principle 7. Living by personal morals and values. A life of worth is not measured by external acclaim, but by fidelity to one's principles. Socrates, facing execution for his unyielding beliefs, met his fate with serenity, unshaken by the crowd's verdict. Marcus Aurelius urged, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." To live authentically is to eschew the burden of approval, to stand firm in your convictions. In a modern context, imagine a meeting where consensus veers toward an unethical choice. Silence preserves harmony. Speaking out upholds integrity. The latter, though isolating, affirms your freedom. In my career, I once faced such a juncture, choosing candor over conformity. The backlash was swift, yet my conscience remained unburdened. Stoicism teaches that happiness flows from this alignment, a peace no external dissent can shatter. You need no one's sanction to live rightly, only your own. Finally, through these 7 principles, Stoicism reveals happiness as an internal creation, unbound by external validation. Have you sought contentment in others' esteem? If so, reclaim your agency. This journey, rooted in ancient wisdom, equips us to thrive amidst modern tumult. You require no one else to be complete, only yourself.